Hello and welcome. I'm Geeta Mohan and you're watching India Today Global. Breaking news coming in at the top of this bulletin. There is an incident that's taken place in Taiwan. A knife-wielding attacker has killed 3 in Taipei, the capital city of Taiwan. The accused threw smoke grenades at a train station. 3 people have been killed, several injured in the knife attack. You can see the visuals over there of a very, very scared lot running out of that train station. He prepared himself right in the middle of the road when people started recording on mobiles, and then he slowly, with his knife, walked toward people. Then people ran scurrying out and in of the train station. The attacker reportedly has died during the police chase. Well, that's the news that's just coming in. A massive incident in a place like Taiwan, where rarely do we see or witness or have heard of incident of knife attacks out in the open. We do not know what the identity of the person is or whether if there was a mental condition involved over here. These are just initial reports that are coming in. You can see very, very scared people running out of that station. He threw smoke grenades at the station, prepared himself right in the middle of the road, and then carried his knife towards people and passers-by. Absolutely scary incident. 3 people have been killed, several have been injured. This is a knife attack incident that took place in the heart of Taipei city, capital of Taiwan. Now, Bangladesh has descended into chaos. Bloodshed, brutality and barbarism now define the state of India's neighboring country. The death of an anti-Hasina and anti-India face, Sharif Osman Hadi, has become the perfect excuse for Islamic radicals to unleash violence across Bangladesh, especially against minorities. Historic landmarks have been destroyed, including properties that are linked to India or the Indian mission that have been vandalized. Streets are burning with riots, the press has been silenced, and what is the unelected interim government doing right now is the big question. Looking the other way, giving a free hand to the vandals with an eye firmly on the impending elections. Here's a special report that exposes how Bangladesh is rapidly turning into an anti-India radical Islamist playground.
Violence, vandalism, arson, and lynching. Bangladesh is on the edge of anarchy. Total chaos and unrest in India's neighborhood after death of a prominent leader, Sharif Osman Hadi, who was face of youth movement that ousted former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Sharif Osman Hadi was shot by masked attackers while leaving a mosque in Dhaka last week and succumbed to his injuries in Singapore.
সবাইকে অবশ্যই এর প্রতিবাদে এবং এই যে হত্যাকাণ্ডের প্রতিবাদে জুলাইয়ের মতো আমাদের সবাইকে একসাথে ঐক্যবদ্ধ থেকে এই হত্যাকাণ্ডের বিচার যাতে অবশ্যই এই দেশে মাটিতে হয় সে ব্যাপারে সবাইকে ঐক্যবদ্ধ থাকতে হবে।
গুলি করা থেকে এর মদতদাতা, এর পৃষ্ঠপোষকতা, এর অর্থদাতা এবং দেশের বাহিরে যে যদি এর সাথে যারা জড়িত আছে সকলের মুখোশ উন্মোচন করে আমরা এর বিচার।
After this news became public, anger spilled on the streets. Radicals went on a rampage and it turned into an anti-India and anti-Hasina stir. angry mob stormed Assistant High Commission of India in Chittagong and pelted stones on the building.
সেখানে এসে পাথর নিক্ষেপ করছেন এমনকি সেই জায়গাতে একের পর এক এই ইতিমধ্যে আরেকজন কিন্তু আহত হয়ে কিন্তু একদম শুয়ে
Protesters vandalized the office of the country's largest newspaper, Daily Pratham Alo, and completely destroyed offices of other media outlets.
আমার ওখানে ওই যে আমাদের ক্যামেরা লেন্স আনুষঙ্গিক সব কিছু মিলে প্রায় আমার একটা সাংবাদিকের ডয়ারে প্রায় ধরো না 25 থেকে 30 লাখ টাকার জিনিস থাকে। আমার সব স্মৃতি, আমার যে এত বছরের কেরিয়ারে যে ছবি তোলা, আমার যে 4-5টা হার্ড ড্রাইভ, তারপরে হচ্ছে আমার পাসপোর্ট,
4তলা থেকে 6তলা পর্যন্ত হচ্ছে পুরোটাই ভাঙচুর করছে, লুটতরাজ করছে, একদম একটা ড্রয়ার পর্যন্ত খালি রাখে নাই, সব চেক করে সব নিয়ে গেছে, ল্যাপটপ ভাঙছে।
The mob also vandalized and set ablaze Chaya North, a prominent and historic cultural organization in Bangladesh founded in 1961.
দেখানোর চেষ্টা করছি বিক্ষুব্ধ ছাত্র জনতা কিন্তু ছায়ানটে ভাঙচুরের করছে। দর্শক আপনাদেরকে দেখানোর চেষ্টা করছি।
Tensions on the ground continue to rise as protesters are accusing Hasina of assassinating Osman Hadi and demanded her extradition. Angry mob targeted offices of Awami League and attacked homes of Hasina's aides. Radicals even lynched a Hindu man over charges of allegations of blasphemy in Bangladesh's Meeman Singh. Bangladesh Chief Advisor Muhammad Yunus has condemned the incident and promised to bring the culprits to justice. But at the same time, Yunus called Sharif Osman Hadi a martyr and called his murder a bid to threaten revolutionaries, an act many see as a dog whistle to the anarchists.
আমরা শহীদ শরীফ ওসমান হাদির আদর্শ ও ত্যাগকে শক্তিতে পরিণত করি, ধৈর্য ধারণ করি, অপপ্রচার ও গুজবে কান না দেই এবং যে কোনো হঠকারী সিদ্ধান্ত থেকে বিরত থাকে। যারা দেশকে অস্থিতিশীল করতে চান তাদের ফাঁদে পা না দিয়ে।
As situation continues to simmer in Bangladesh, Indian agencies continue to keep a close watch on what is happening in India's backyard. Bureau Report, India Today.
Things are indeed taking a very serious turn. To discuss this and more, I'm being joined by Salahuddin Shoaib Chaudhry, editor of The Blitz from Dhaka. Shoaib, thank you so much for joining me here on the network. A very serious situation. This even as the country is preparing for elections, we do see the country is already descended into chaos.
Thank you very much. You see, last night we have witnessed the massive vandalism and terrorist activities in this country. But today, in the afternoon, the Islamists set fire on Udichi Silpi Goshti, another cultural organization's office in Dhaka center. At the same time, now after the arrival of the dead body of Hadi, we are getting information of protest in various parts of the country. And when I'm talking to you, it's almost 11 p.m. in the evening. So in Dhaka city, most of the roads, you will see hundreds and thousands of people, particularly Hadi's dead body is being kept in the Institute of Cardiac Diseases, which is owned by the government, and in the mortuary. And within the mortuary, there are at least few 100,000 people already waiting for the dead body. So as a journalist, I'm fearing that tomorrow after the janaza of Hadi, there may be some sort of angry protest and vandalism, fresh vandalism, and also attacks on secularists institutions and individuals, at the same time, Hindus.
Minorities. Right. But Shoaib, the fact is that there is a massive anti-India tirade because of this death, almost blaming India, which shouldn't be the case. And the government of the time, the interim administration, should have done something about it. The fact that there have been violation of conventions by our missions, by the Indian missions being attacked and diplomats coming under attack.
Yes, Yunus regime is clearly violating the Vienna Convention by letting mobs attack the diplomatic missions in Bangladesh. But please remember that whatever is happening, Yunus is actually playing the role of arsonist and firefighter. And whatever happening, the prime objective of these things is to somehow sabotage the prospect of holding election on the 12th of February and remain for the Yunus to remain in power indefinitely. Meanwhile, many unconfirmed sources are giving us information that during the janaza of Hadi, in presence of hundreds of thousands of people, the the Yunus loyalist youths may proclaim the current regime as the revolutionary government, and they may declare Yunus as a supreme leader. If something like that happens, then tomorrow will be the death of democracy in this country, and Yunus will emerge into the Ayatollah, and Bangladesh will go under caliphate, similar as many other caliphate nations, particularly Iran.
Right. Shoaib, that's a very important point you're making. We'll have to keep our eyes on what happens tomorrow when the janaza or the funeral of Sharif Osman Hadi takes place, and there whether if Yunus is going to use that to leverage himself as the leader and not hold the elections that he's supposed to hold. Shoaib Chaudhry, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
A new wave of images tied to Jeffrey Epstein is reigniting scrutiny around one of the most disturbing scandals of the past decade. The images, some deeply unsettling, show a range of documents and prominent figures raising renewed questions around the scandal. As the deadline for full disclosure approaches, pressure is mounting on the Justice Department to release everything that can legally be made public, and it threatens to send shockwaves beyond America's shores.
Bill Gates, Woody Allen, Noam Chomsky. The who's who being signed by the Epstein list gets bigger with every expose. The House of Democrats released another 68 photos tied to Epstein's estate, part of tens of thousands of files now turning up as Congress pushes for disclosure. The images, some disturbing by any standard, include redacted passports, partial text messages, and staged scenes with quotes from Lolita inscribed on bodies. Among the snapshots are text messages suggesting arrangements for young women, fueling simmering debates over the scope of Epstein's trafficking network. The newly released photos also show Epstein in a range of social settings alongside high-profile individuals, including Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates, filmmaker Woody Allen, Google co-founder Sergey Brin, philosopher Noam Chomsky, former Trump advisor Steve Bannon, and New York Times columnist David Brooks. These visuals are being released ahead of the December 19th deadline set by the Epstein Files Transparency Act. A law passed this year requiring the Justice Department to publicly release all the unclassified material tied to the case. Jeffrey Epstein died in federal custody in 2019, a controversial loss that ended the criminal case but sparked endless questions about the breadth of his notorious network and the influence of powerful people associated with him. The releases are not just another dump of material. They represent a possible turning point in public understanding of what was once hidden behind the sealed court orders. Bureau Report, India Today.
Trump administration announced $11.1 billion in arms sales to Taiwan, the largest ever U.S. weapons package for the island, which is under increasing military pressure from China. The arms sales announcement is the second under U.S. President Donald Trump's current administration. It comes as Beijing ramps up its military and diplomatic pressure against Taiwan, though Taipei rejects Beijing's sovereignty claims. According to the Taiwanese defense minister, the proposed arms sales cover 8 items, including HIMARS rocket systems, howitzers, Javelin anti-tank missiles, Altius loitering munition, drones, and parts for other equipments. Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te last month announced a $40 billion supplementary defense budget to run from 2026 to 2033, saying there was no room for compromise on national security. Taiwan has ramped up its military purchases as Chinese aircraft and ships conduct regular large-scale exercises in and over the surrounding waters. TikTok's Chinese owner, ByteDance, has finally signed binding agreements with 3 major investors to sell just over 80% of the company's U.S. assets to American and global investors to avoid a U.S. government ban. TikTok CEO Shao Zi-Chu informed employees of the same. The deal is a major step toward resolving years of uncertainty about the short video app's future in the United States of America. The company told employees that ByteDance and TikTok signed binding agreements with 3 managing investors, Oracle, Silver Lake, and MGX, to form a new TikTok US joint venture named TikTok USDS Joint Venture LLC. The deal, set to close on the 22nd of January, would end years of efforts to force ByteDance to divest its US business over national security concerns. Oracle, Silver Lake, and Abu Dhabi-based MGX will collectively own 45% of the new entity. A growing crackdown in the Gulf has left Pakistan red-faced, with Saudi Arabia and the UAE deporting thousands over organized begging rackets. As visa curbs tighten and remittances come under threat, can Islamabad dismantle these networks? Geeta Mohan with this report.
A significant diplomatic crisis is emerging between Pakistan and its Gulf allies, revealing an issue that threatens decades of bilateral relations. Saudi Arabia has deported 24,000 Pakistani nationals this year on charges of begging. The UAE has sent back 6,000 more and imposed strict visa restrictions. Pakistan's Federal Investigation Agency confirms the problem is real. In 2025, authorities stopped over 66,000 passengers from leaving Pakistani airports, targeting what they call organized begging networks. And it's not just the Gulf. Similar cases have been found involving travel to Africa, Europe, Cambodia, and Thailand, where people misuse tourist visas. The situation reached a breaking point in 2024 when Saudi Arabia formally warned Pakistan to stop beggars from exploiting Umrah pilgrimage visas. The message was clear: prevent beggars from operating near Mecca and Medina, or all Pakistani pilgrims could face travel restrictions. Pakistani attorney Rafia Zakaria, writing in Dawn, describes this not as individual hardship, but as a well-organized business operation. These groups set up near holy sites and aggressively approach foreign pilgrims for money. The scale is massive. Government officials say about 90% of people caught begging in West Asian countries are Pakistani nationals. The real impact? Ordinary Pakistani citizens seeking legitimate travel for work, education, or religious reasons now face tougher restrictions. This matters because Pakistan depends heavily on remittances from Gulf workers and values its relationship with Saudi Arabia as a crucial Islamic partnership. The question now is whether Pakistan can shut down these criminal networks and restore trust with its Gulf partners. Until that happens, millions of ordinary Pakistanis will continue facing the consequences of organized groups that have damaged their country's international standing. With Geeta Mohan, Euro Report, India Today Global.
India's shipments to China have surged by 33% in April-November due to diversification and US tariffs. India and China remain locked in mistrust after Galwan, yet trade is booming. As Trump's tariffs bite, India's exports surge east and west. Is this a crack in the tariff war or India mastering global trade chaos? Find the answer in our next report on Statecraft. India and China are not friends, far from it. Since the deadly Galwan clash in 2020, ties have been defined by mistrust, military standoffs, app bans, blocked investments, and loud vows from New Delhi to cut dependence on Beijing through Atmanirbhar Bharat and strategic autonomy. Fresh border tensions in 2025 only hardened that stance. If you followed the rhetoric alone, you'd think India had practically sworn off China. But the trade numbers blow that story apart. Between April and November, India's shipments to China surged nearly 33% to $12.22 billion, even as Donald Trump imposed 25% tariffs plus another 25% over Russian oil imports. India's exports jumped anyway, east and west. So is this diversification-driven surge bad news for Trump's tariff war or proof that India is gaming it? Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. Between April and November 2025, India's merchandise exports to China didn't just grow, they exploded, up nearly 33%, climbing from $9.20 billion to $12.22 billion. November alone delivered a staggering 90% year-on-year jump to $2.20 billion. Petroleum products, electronics, marine goods, oil meals. Indian exports are flowing east at record pace, even as geopolitical tensions simmer and military forces tear each other down across frozen mountain passes. This is not a reset. This is not a thaw. This is pragmatic economic disconnect operating in parallel with deep geopolitical mistrust. And it's happening at the exact moment Donald Trump is escalating his tariff war, slapping 25% reciprocal duties on India, another 25% for buying Russian oil, pushing some categories to an eye-watering 50% total. The contradiction is jarring. India never formally banned exports to China, true, but the post-2020 posture was unmistakably hostile. Quality controls on Chinese steel and dairy, production-linked incentive schemes designed explicitly to cut import dependence on Chinese electronics, pharmaceuticals, and machinery. Bilateral summits frozen until tentative gestures emerged at the 2025 Shanghai Cooperation Organization meetings. China still exports $113 to $114 billion worth of goods to India: electronics, machinery, solar panels, EV batteries, while India exports just $14.25 billion in return. The April-November data reveal a pattern that is anything but accidental. India's exports to China opened the financial year at $1.39 billion in April 2025. They climbed to $1.62 billion in May, cooled during the mid-year months as global demand wavered, then surged again as autumn approached. September recorded $1.46 billion, October rose to $1.63 billion, and November exploded to $2.2 billion. That November number wasn't just higher, it nearly doubled the $1.16 billion seen in November the previous year. This was not sentiment. This was not diplomacy. This was demand meeting capacity. China needed inputs. India had them ready. And the timing could not have been more politically inconvenient for Washington. Risks remain. An escalation in tariffs, prolonged WTO disputes, or a sharper slowdown in China's domestic economy could hit demand. But buffers exist. Services exports continue to provide ballast. Diversified trade agreements reduce reliance on any single market. The April-November surge is not destiny, but it is direction. Thank you for watching Statecraft. That's all in this edition of India Today Global. But before I go, here are some other stories from across the world in World at a Glance. Goodbye and take care.
The suspect in the Brown University mass shooting has been found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And he's now also the chief suspect in the killing of an MIT professor. Authorities have identified the shooter as 48-year-old Portuguese national Claudio Neves Valente, who attended the university more than 2 decades ago. His body was found on Thursday night in a storage unit in Salem, New Hampshire. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump has suspended the US Green Card lottery scheme. Valente entered the country through the Diversity Lottery immigrant visa program. Australia announces a national gun buyback scheme following the Bondi mass shooting. The buyback would be similar to gun reforms introduced soon after the massacre in 1996. Tasmania's Port Arthur after a lone gunman killed 35 people, which promoted authorities to implement some of the world's toughest gun laws. Meanwhile, the man who's credited with saving lives during the mass shooting at Bondi Beach received a check for more than 2.5 million Australian dollars after tens of thousands of people contributed to a donation website.
You can say one thing to the people that donate.
President Vladimir Putin warned against any threat to blockade Russia's Kaliningrad exclave, saying such moves would be resisted by Moscow and risked large-scale conflict. Russian officials have accused the West of wanting to isolate Kaliningrad, which lies on the Baltic coast and is sandwiched between NATO and European Union members, Lithuania and Poland, and is home to Russia's Baltic fleet. Putin also said that Russia will always retaliate Ukrainian strikes on Russian vessels and civilian targets.